Good evening. Welcome to Harbison House. I'm Mark Wrighton, the Chancellor, and my wife Risa and I live here. I'm delighted to have this opportunity to show you around, show you where we live. We're right at 6420 Forsyth, just across the street from the Department of Psychology and Biology, and very close to Edison Theater, and just to the west, next house over, is Whittemore House, our faculty club. So please come on in. You're here in the foyer where we have many special gatherings of guests for special events at the university. We have a number of endowed professorships that are being created in the course of our fundraising campaign. I might note that already, as of January 26, 2015, we have 87 new endowed professorships. And typically, when we have a new endowed professorship, we'll host a dinner to celebrate with the donor and, of course, with the recipient of the professorship, a great evening together here at our residence. So let me show you around and give you a sense of what we might do on such an occasion. So we come in, and this beautiful portrait reminds me to tell you for whom this house has been named. This is Earl Harbison and his wife Suzanne. Earl Harbison is a distinguished alumnus of the university, and Suzanne, his wife, also a graduate of the university. Earl was at one time president of the Monsanto Company, and in recognition of their great support for Washington University, this residence was named in their honor. So that's a very important part of our history, but just to take you back in time, this house was designed in 1912 and designed it and built at the same time as Whittemore House, the faculty club. And the houses were actually built by a man by the name of Mr. Harstick. And it was Mr. Harstick who had the houses built, one for each of his two daughters. And they married and had their families in these two houses, and we've been fortunate to have the house since 1958, when the house was donated to the university by that family. So come into what is sometimes called our music room. This is a special space, and it's a small and intimate room just off of what we call the library. But many people come in here to come out of the foyer and into the home. As you can see, it's very comfortably decorated, and the art that we have is a part of the collection of the Mildred Lane Kemper Art Museum. Another important benefit of being Chancellor is that I'm often receiving wonderful books. This is a book which is entitled Sermons and Meditations by Priscilla Wood Neves, and a new endowed professorship has been created in her honor by her husband, Dr. William Neves, and this new professorship will be going to Professor Mark Valeri of the John C. Danforth Center on Religion and Politics. So step this way and you'll see what we call the library, and in here we have special space for many people who come for celebratory events, and very often in this space over in the northwest corner we have a musical group, typically students of the university who are very talented, and they entertain our guests before our dinner. So this is a very nice space, and if you take a look at the shelves, a lot of books have been accumulated, and almost all of them come from the faculty of the university, and with now nearly 20 years of experience and a great and productive faculty, I have many books in the library. So we're walking to the south now, and we have a very generous backyard, which is also comfortable for outdoor events. And we've been fortunate to have a great place to live, in addition to a very generous set of spaces for cultivating our friends and for the stewardship events that we do. We often have events for students and for faculty, celebrating special events, welcoming new people to our community. As you look around, you will see some very interesting mementos. And here's one that looks very modest, and in a way it is, but it's a gift from Bill Gates, the person who founded Microsoft. Bill Gates came to Washington University and was here for a special event and gave us all a memento of this kaleidoscope that, as I say, is modest, but it has a special place for me because it was given to me by Bill Gates. Over here is another nice memento that goes back to one of my early years as Chancellor. And what you see in this photograph is an image of the first year class, and they all have glow sticks, and as you can see, they've spelled out WU. Now this is so long ago that we don't do this particular thing anymore, but on this occasion we actually made a postcard of this and asked all the students to write home. Now I know it's extremely old-fashioned now to write home, but back in the day, as they say, we did that, and that's also a nice remembrance of one of our orientation programs. So this is just an informal space where we gather people together. Oftentimes, as the musical group is performing for our guests for a professorship, we invite everybody into the residence and into this library, and we have the musicians perform something that they receive our undivided attention so that people know how talented our students are, what they're doing, and how well they do it. So this is one of our main entertainment spaces. As you know, the St. Louis Cardinals are one of the greatest baseball franchises in the United States. And from time to time, I'm the recipient of gifts of signed baseballs. And here's a small collection. Some of you may know that Tony La Russa was our commencement speaker. This is an autographed baseball from Tony La Russa. And I myself threw out the first pitch before a Cardinals game on May 17th, 1998. I practiced diligently and did a terrible job, but even so, it was thrilling. I dressed out in a Washington University baseball uniform. I had perfect form, but the ball only went about 50 feet, so it bounced in front of the catcher, but it was on target and they caught it, and it was fun to do. Another of the very special baseballs here is one signed in my presence by Yogi Berra, a St. Louisan. And I might note that this baseball was given to me just on the eve of my installation as Chancellor. I happened to be at a restaurant, and I was finishing up my dinner, and I took out a draft of my installation address. And just as I was beginning to do that, a man by the name of Lucius Morse came over and introduced himself. He said he had met me at a big reception with maybe 500 people, but I didn't really appreciate who he was. And he said to me at the restaurant, "Come on over here. There's somebody I want you to meet." I said, "Oh, really?" And he said, "Yes, my brother-in-law." And his brother-in-law was Yogi Berra. And as we were leaving the restaurant, I said, "You know, I'm working on my installation address, and I just happen to have a collection of your quotes. I wonder if you'd be willing to sign them, to autograph them." And he did, and it was really very nice of him to do that. He was very gracious. They bought dessert for me. But as we were leaving, the restaurateur had 2 baseballs, and she asked Yogi Berra to sign them. And as I was walking next to Lucius Morse, I said, "Oh, gee, I wish I had thought to bring baseballs." And he said, "Don't worry, I live nearby. let's go to my house. We have baseballs and other paraphernalia. I'm sure we can work it out. And that's how I came to have a baseball from Yogi Berra. So that's been a lot of fun. Let's step in here where we have this very nice piano, which is sometimes used as we have special events. And indeed, we have some really talented musicians here at the university, and the piano is very well used. I have a collection of bears, and here you see some of them. This one, as you can see, is dressed as a Washington University bear. And perhaps you know the great company called Build-A-Bear Workshop. And Maxine Clark, the former chief executive bear and founder of Build-A-Bear Workshop, a member of our board of trustees, has often given me these beautiful works from the workshop, and I have a nice collection of great bears. So it's fun to have this kind of memento in our home as well. So after we have a time for music and conversation with our guests for the professorships, we call people into dinner. And our dining room is in here. It's not formally set up right now, but I think you'll get the idea. We can seat up to 36 people in the dining room for a sit-down dinner. And if we take this extra space, we can seat about 40 people. But at the time that we call people in for dinner, it's often the case that we need to get people's attention because they're talking loud and they don't really get the hint that it's time for dinner. So some years back, my wife, Risa, gave me this wonderful gift. And this is our dinner gong. And so for my birthday, this is what we received. And we typically have the guest of honor. Sometimes the guest of honor would have children and they come, or maybe a parent or others important in their life, but we often have them ring the gong as an honor. So we begin with a call for dinner like this. And sometimes we need to repeat that several times. So then, come on in. We have, you can see, space for a large number of people to gather for a wonderful dinner together. And we begin with, typically everybody sits down, they take a little time getting in, finding their seats. These are all assigned seat events. And typically, Risa, my wife, sits here, so she has a view of the whole dining room, and I sit at the other end of the table, and we begin often with a toast to the honoree or honorees, and we often encourage our chef to outline what we are about to have for dinner, and we place a lot of emphasis on bringing food from local establishments, local farms, and we have an emphasis on healthy dining, so we try to emphasize that. And I don't know whether you are all aware of it, but you should be attentive to the Green Mondays in terms of dining. We're trying to be vegetarian for that day to underscore the importance of how much agricultural productivity is dedicated to producing beef, for example. In any event, we try to have a healthy lifestyle here at Harbison House, even though I don't always have control over what's served. At least in this house, we do. And it's really a reward for us. If you come this way, I'll show you the main kitchen. So for an evening when we have a major event, we have a large number of staff. We're staffed by the same staff as at the faculty club, and that helps enormously on logistics as they're just next door. And this is the main kitchen for the house right in here. This has been set up for us personally, and we've also use this, for all the big events. So if you ask, where will you find Mark Wrighton at, say, 6 a.m. on an academic day, I would be seated right there. I would be reading either the Post-Dispatch or the New York Times. Generally, I read both of those before I go off to the rest of my day. I am watching the news, hoping that I'm not in it in a negative way. And our day is often dominated by time in the kitchen, as it is in many households. Oh, a special guest has joined us. This is our cat.
Oh, no.
This is a cat that my wife calls Maestro, but I call him the Professor. And we have a lot of fun with the Professor. He typically doesn't come out at events, but our dog, the Golden Retriever, Grace, often takes part in all of our entertainment. She was selected for being able to deal with large crowds and not jump on people and that sort of thing. But we've had a good time with both of our pets. And when it's just the two of us at home, we might have dinner out or we might cook in. I enjoy cooking. Reese is a better cook by far, and I'm a good dishwasher. Okay, so there's one very important asset that we have at this house, and that's our bowling alley. Here we are in the foyer, the main entrance to the house, and this little pocket door brings us to a source of great joy and entertainment. Just down these stairs brings us to our bowling alley. Now there's something here that is extremely valuable and very interesting. This is a very old but still working refrigerator. When I came in 1995, this was the main kitchen refrigerator, and it still works. It's a General Electric refrigerator. It is genuinely an antique. I'm convinced it's more than 50 years old. And we have some nice photographs down here, or at least I think they're nice. These were all taken by yours truly on a photo safari in Africa. Most of these are in Victoria, in the area around Victoria Falls, or in Botswana. We did this on the occasion of my wife's 60th birthday. That was my gift to her. And we got quite a few nice photographs. And here we have what typically takes place at a bowling party. A group of students, although we've sometimes had trustees in their dresses and trustee males in their suits bowling with us, but more often students. Welcome everybody. I'm sharing our crib. Thank you all for joining us for this event.
Welcome.
If you come around here, I'll show you the alley. So here we are with a really nice bowling alley. It's a full-fledged, full-length bowling alley, and we've had some great bowlers here. Has anybody had a strike?
No.
Almost? A spare? Good. Well, I think it's about time to get these people out of here, and I'll try to bowl.
Okay.
Let's see.
Okay, let's do it.
I don't have my bowling shoes on. I'd be doing much better if I did. You see these beautiful shoes for bowling? My wife got them all in University City for about $1 a pair. And we used to have about 50 pair, and I think students coming tried them out and liked them. That's more like it. All right, so here we are. I'll try for the spare. What? Oh.
Do you want to make it look like you got a strike? First one.
All right.
First two.
You want us to put the one pin back?
That's all right.
Reset the one pin.
They're giving me like 7 chances here.
This is the power
Yeah,
of
but
But-
the magic of video, we won't even know.
But here's the truth. The first time I bowled, I was showing off for Risa. And I fell down.
Oh.
True. All right. All this.